everyone, and welcome back to the Sporting Global podcast. And Alessandra, it's a pleasure having you here. Thanks for taking the time. How's the heat in Sao Paulo these days?
Hi, thank you very much for having me. It's good. It's not that warm as we were in the beginning of the year that we had
Yeah,
the summer,
yeah.
but it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I'm glad to hear that. I mean, like you gotta appreciate the little things. I know you're doing your work from home, as most people do, and it's just hanging in there, and just making the best out of it. But it's as I said, a pleasure having you part of it. And for those of you that are tuning in, today we're going to talk a little about, the esport industry, about HyperX, of course, Alessandra's experience. And if you want to hear more insights from professionals like Alessandra, make sure to subscribe to to this podcast and our YouTube channel and like the video. Maybe if you think it was some good insights, maybe ask some questions in the comments as well. We'll make sure to, check those out, and you can get good insights every week from sport professionals like Alessandra. And Alessandra, I think we're just gonna dive sort of right into how did your journey in the sport industry begin? Because you've been working with a lot of different things, but well, take us a little bit through how it all started.
Okay, that's a good question to start because I'm not gonna lie, it somehow came uh, by surprise. It was a
Right.
little lucky
All right.
because I used yeah, it was like I didn't go into esports, but the esports found me. It
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
a
Got it.
something that just happened.
That's awesome.
Uh, since the beginning, I always wanted to work with something different, entertainment, music, sports,
Right.
just because of my lifestyle.
Yep.
I
Yep.
always thought I wouldn't fit in like regular jobs or regular companies that would make me wear clothes that I didn't like, or
Right.
high heels, or try to be more serious than I really am.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I always try to, do my path to different things. And what I loved more was football
Right.
above all things, music and football.
Yeah.
So I studied communications and then I started working as a PR. I mean,
All right.
trainee or
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
but regarding press relations. Um, and after my graduation, I said, okay, let's move to sports. So I
Right.
did a post graduation, an MBA in esports and sports management.
Yeah.
Uh, and I got to work with football for a couple of years. So
Nice.
I worked with Adidas. I worked with some local tournaments as Copa do Brasil, and
Yeah.
then international ones as Copa America, two times in Chile and Brazil,
Nice.
and then Olympic Games. So, I mean, this time Brazil was on fire. We had
Right.
the World Cup, we had the Olympic
A lot.
Games, we
A
had a
lot.
lot of things. After the Olympic Games, everybody that cared for sports was without a job. So I thought, oh my God, everybody
Right.
is trying to get the same amount of jobs available in the market.
Right.
Either it is in football clubs or things.
Yeah.
I know people. There are a lot of people that do enjoy other sports.
So as you were mentioning, Alessandra, you were obviously working and part of the Rio Olympics. A lot of things were happening in Brazil, but after that, it's sort of I don't know, it kind of stopped up a little bit. And as I said, everyone was sort of looking for a sports job, I guess. And where did sort of your journey take you from there, or how did you sort of cope with, I guess, Brazil and the sports job sort of I guess minimizing very very much after that.
Yeah. So what I did decide was to stay in Rio because I like it. I really like the city, but
Right.
there was where everybody was because
Yeah.
everybody that was working in Rio
Yeah.
loved Rio and wanted to stay there. So it was even more complicated. So I knew
Right.
eventually I had to come back to São Paulo.
Yeah.
But before I went to esports, I had a very good slash frustrating experience that I want to share.
Right.
That La Liga, that's the football tournament for in Spain,
Yep.
they open some opening. I mean, they started like a new program that they were looking for 35 people, I think, to
Yep.
be like representatives all over the world.
Mm.
And I just I saw it and I was like, okay, that's made for me. That's literally what I know how to do, what I
Like,
want to do.
yeah, yeah.
So I try it. It was 13,000 people that replied, that tried to
Right.
that applied.
Wow.
uh, and I was one of the 500 that were invited to come to Spain and do like a pitch.
Right.
So I got all the money I had, went to Spain to do like a 3-minute pitch inside Santander,
Wow.
literally telling why, I should get the job.
Yep.
So I went to Spain. I did this. I stayed there for a couple weeks.
Yep.
When I came back, I was supposed to hear from them. So I said, okay, I'm not looking for anything here because I'm gonna wait for this, because it's my
Right.
dream job. I'm gonna get it. There's
Yeah.
no way I won't get it. No, I'm kidding. But I said like, okay,
Oh,
if
but you
they
gotta go
want
for it,
me,
you know?
yeah, you're like, okay, I can do it. So they
Yeah.
did call me and said, okay, you passed. So now 150 people are the finalists. You have to come back to Spain. So I
No,
went back to Spain. Yes, it was like 1 month and a half
that's
difference
crazy.
with, again, with the money I had left, all in. Like, I'm gonna get it. I went there. And it was like a day
Yeah.
inside Atletico's stadium. It
Right.
was the previous Vicente Calderon. I'm a huge fan of Real Madrid, so I was not happy about being the
Well,
opposite
you can't
team.
tell them that.
No, I can't. Like was no, all in. I love everybody. Um,
Exactly.
so I had this day. It was a very complicated day, and it was very difficult, I'm not gonna lie, because
Well, I can
pretty
imagine.
much everybody was either Spanish or a lot of people that did live in Europe already. I think besides me there should be like 4 girls among
Mm,
all 150.
right.
um so we were divided in groups, etc. I stayed in Spain,
Yep.
waiting for the answer, and they replied me like, you didn't pass.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I didn't pass. It was my dream job. I spent all my money.
Right.
It's my dream city. Like, what do I do?
Right.
Um, and I remember I wrote like a like a Facebook post,
Yeah.
that just telling, everybody like, I let everybody down because I know you thought the same as me. Like, I was supposed to get this, nobody will do it better than me. I love it so much, etc. And then I
Right.
came back. And I came back, and 2 days after, literally 2 days after, a friend called me, like, what are you up to? And I was
Right.
like, well, let me just say,
What are
long
you up
story
to?
short, I'm not doing anything, I'm just saying I'm just seeing what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
And he said, well, this friend was Caio that works with me in HyperX.
Yeah.
He said, I have I'm looking for a freelancer to work in social media that has to speak Spanish. I never worked with social media, like I'm a social media, I'm community manager.
Right.
Never. It
Right.
was
No, I
just
get it.
all part of communication, like, okay, I can do it. And he was like, it has to be somebody that I trust and that can handle social media for 2 months, because there is a guy that's uh he's, I don't know how to say this word. He's not working for layoff. It's like a layoff,
Right.
something
Right.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Like temporary leave or something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was a temporary leave, medical
Yeah.
leave,
No, I
something
get
like
it.
that. Okay, so I went back to São Paulo,
Yep.
for a few weeks because it was supposed to be short. I
Right.
left my place, I left my cat, everything real. I came
Oh,
to São Paulo, uh, and I got I got the opportunity to go to HyperX.
nice.
I was working both with HyperX and Kingston at that time,
Mm,
and I got to manage the team. And talking to them, I mean, they met me, of course, and they saw how I was, etc.
right.
Talking about sports, talking about athletes, and they were like, you know what? there are some esports teams that we don't really manage them. We do sponsor them, but we have nobody that really knows what we are doing. That can talk to them and say, "Yeah,
Mm.
nice game." We have no idea. Um,
Right.
so what they did was they created me a spot in
Right.
HyperX.
It's
That was
awesome.
the esports manager,
Yeah.
esports specialist or whatever.
Right.
And they also added the streamers because it goes together. We have some influencers here that
Right.
are, well, they
Right.
are they are athletes too. So can you handle them all? And back then, I was just managing the Spanish speaking part
Yeah.
and doing the social media until they actually got a new person. So I did this transition and I got my role in HyperX.
That's
So it was crazy
awesome.
because after working with esports, it's not like I shut down everything for football, but
Right.
it's two different worlds. I mean,
Yeah.
football is too complicated. It has a lot of men. Women have always to prove themselves three, four, five times more.
Right.
So they believe you know what you're saying, etc.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the core, it's the same core. They're all the
Yeah. Yeah.
athletes. They are all players. They're all performance.
Right.
But esports is more, you know, when they can hug you more. You're like, come
It
on,
is a
we're glad
community,
you're in.
right? Like more
Yeah,
of
it's a
a
community.
yeah. I mean, like that's sort of like the beauty, I guess, of esport too. And I mean, it's like not necessarily esport itself, but just like the streaming community. It's like that. I mean, like that's obviously why Twitch and all this stuff blew up too, because people were able to create that community and being part of something. And I think like that's obviously why esport kind of like came up the way it did too, because it kind of like can relate to like how a fan feels for a team, right? Sort of like you're bringing up, oh, I was a fan of Real Madrid, right? Or you probably are still, but like kind of like that emotional and community aspect of it. And I think that's really important, and something that a lot of organizations, I guess, should learn from. And so like how do you keep that community feeling inside your organization or inside your staff to build upon that? So that and I mean, like, of course, in your journey too, like just having that you know sacrificing, I guess, everything for that La Liga job, and then 2 days later, I mean, like, what you can say is like, okay, you took that sacrifice, but I'm sure you also learned a lot on that journey that
Yeah.
you brought with you. And of course, we when one door closes, another one opens, isn't it? Something like that, I think.
Yes. Actually, what I like about my job is that I can create pretty much everything. We are writing a new book, not even a chapter, a whole history. We are
Right.
creating stuff
Yeah.
different than maybe football or anything that exists for over
Right.
100 years.
Yeah.
Esports exists for, I don't know, 15. I mean,
Yeah.
let's say
Young.
let's start it to be more pro,
Yeah.
but year after year, when I think about 2017 when I started, there are some things that I say, oh my God, we were doing that. Look where we are right now,
Right.
not me, HyperX. I mean, the whole community, as you say, because
Yeah.
everyone, everyone's grow is everybody's grow. We need everybody to grow, the esports scene to grow, more companies to come with investment, with knowledge,
Right.
with new ways of spreading the world, because it's growing so fast, and
Well,
I'm
but
glad that I just started at the right time.
right. No, I mean, like it's all about timing, right? And since you sort of like brought that up of like being part of HyperX since 2017, like what have been some like the changes, I guess, you've seen the last few years, and I guess like from the lens of being part of HyperX, brands towards the esport industry, because I guess like now it's sort of like you have the time to reflect a few years and say like, okay, this is what we were doing in 2017. This is what is happening now. Why don't you take a little bit, like, what are some of the changes that you've seen?
Inside from the company itself, when I started in HyperX, we were launching our first mouse, for example. We
Right.
didn't have any in our lineup. There was no mouse.
Yeah.
So now we have like five mice, I would say. We have like 11 keyboards,
Right.
maybe 13 headsets. So over the years, I had the opportunity, because we launch everything, I can
Yeah.
create a strategy of using our partners and creating stories, creating campaigns, creating interaction with the community. So
Yeah.
inside, that's what I feel when I come back, and also seeing the players 4 year younger, because they are kids. I'm
Right.
on my 30s, but they are on their 20s, let's say. So 4 years
Even
makes a
younger too,
lot of
you know.
difference. Yeah, I
It's
mean,
really-
now I'm older now I'm old, because when I started, I was 26.
yeah.
So I would talk to guys that were like 20, 22. Now I'm 30 and I'm still talking to the 20, 22. So that makes a difference already, but it's not
Yeah.
about respect or anything. It's just okay, time goes.
Right.
I'm not getting any younger, and these guys are, like they
Yeah.
are in the coming the right moment. If I was 20 and everything was going on, so that would be like my first advice, to people that are young and want to get in.
Yeah.
It's super, super, interesting, and there are a lot of ways, and we can say it's even easier than starting football or other sports that
Right.
either don't have investments
Yeah.
or they have, the group is one Corinthians for the whole world.
Right.
There's no two Corinthians. If you want to work in this one, it's like me. If I want to work with Real Madrid, there's only one, and 80% of the people in the world that want to work in Real Madrid. So if I have
Yeah.
this focus, it's too complicated. But with
Right.
esports, it doesn't work like this. There
Right.
are many others.
Like, I guess you were saying too, like the industry is so fresh, right, and so new. So there's always new things coming up, right? And a lot of these brands like HyperX has been, capitalizing on the growth as well. And talking a little bit about, as you said, but like, okay, we had one mouse, now we have five. And a lot of the, not only on like the athlete side, right, and like covering that, but like on the product side too. So there's a lot of growth happening inside. And I mean, like you did mention a little bit behind the scene that that's been a acquisition happening from from you guys, or like that HP bought HyperX, and that's a pretty big step, I would say too. And how sort of like been the reaction, I guess, from your side and the team in Brazil about that, and how do you see sort of like that impacting your job moving forward, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's good and sad. I mean, sad because we are really attached to Kingston,
Right.
because Kingston is a super good brand, and we know the owners. Literally,
Right.
John and David. They work in the office, so every time I go to California, and this is the same for everybody. I used to
Yeah.
go a lot because of my job,
Right.
and they would come like, "You don't work here every day. Who are you? What do you do?" And then I work with esports. Oh, and they get so interested. They are
Awesome.
super good. Not even bosses, because I don't talk to them, of course, like
Yeah.
they daily. But they are super intelligent and super good people, good heart.
Right.
So we have to let it go in a way.
Yeah.
So of course, expectations of how HP will treat us. I mean,
Right.
um, but I think it's a whole part of the deal. What they say is like, you're like, our HyperX is our daughter, and we have to give it to the world. We
Right.
cannot take care of you anymore just because of the size of
Yeah. Yeah.
Kingston. We always say that they are the father that pays us,
Yeah. Yeah.
monthly money to make the company grow.
Right.
So our expectations are the best possible, because we know the size of HP, we know the potential of
Right.
the company, and I just think it's going to be a blast for us. We're gonna grow even more, get to new opportunities. It's going to be awesome.
skyrocketing, moving forward.
skyrocketing.
Yeah, well, I mean, like
Hopefully.
it's a lot of interesting things happening, and I'm sure it will be a very interesting years, and I guess you have to keep us in the loop of what's happening from
Sure.
your side, and hopefully, we all can go out and travel a little bit more soon as well once this pandemic goes over, and we can, you can attend like esport events and meet the influencers. I know there's a lot of like, these gatherings and all this stuff that I'm sure you're part of. But why don't we talk a little bit about like, some of, the key responsibilities that you have now, because obviously now you're, sort of like the esport and the influencer specialist at HyperX, of course, Latam, and what are some of like the key tasks that you're working on right now?
Okay, so the way we work, we have some influencers under contracts,
Yeah.
that we call them the HyperX Squad, and we also convert them in heroes
Mm.
because our tagline and the way we work is about using game as a tool, of making a better world, of a world to make people happier. It's for a lot of people. We know gaming. It's a safe place.
Yeah.
Everybody can game. From It doesn't matter who you are, you can game, and you do
Right.
game. Actually,
Yeah.
like there's nobody that don't play any game. So our tagline is we're all gamers. So
Yeah.
what we try talking about creators is to get different people and people that not only represent us in their gaming aspect, but in things that they believe, how they interact with the community, what they do. We have a lot of pillars like philanthropy, community, and really caring about what you do,
Yeah.
because we're not looking for numbers. We're not looking for, this is the biggest guy. Okay, but is he like a hero to
Right.
the community? What do he
Yeah.
do? What does he do for his community? How does he stand, for important not aspects, but important things that happens around the world? I mean, you don't
Right.
have to, raise a flag and say, I have a very
Right.
strong
Right.
position about something or something else, but
Yeah.
always trying to do good and try to change lives, save lives. And we
Okay.
see it in our community. We see that streamers, they have this ability to save
Yeah.
lives, to make people's day happier.
Right.
They are there to entertain. It's like their friend on the other side of the computer. And this is
Right.
very important for kids or for gamers in general. So what I try to do in my side, because of course the creator is doing this on his own,
Yeah.
we just try to potentialize pot,
Right.
potential. I don't know how to say this word, to make it stronger with the community. So giving
Right.
them
Yeah.
opportunities to meet the streamer or to interact it with it.
Right.
Anything that we can try to make it feel closer to his idol. And in the esports scene, we do sponsor a lot of teams around the world.
Right.
Usually, every year, less and less,
Yeah.
because we just keep the best ones and the ones that are really aligned with the way we think.
Right. And the
And
values and
they
so forth.
Yes, and it's very important to understand, who they are, if they're not coming out of nowhere and doing. It's the same as sponsoring anything. You really have
Yeah.
you HyperX is a very strong brand, so we have to put our stamp.
Yeah. Yeah.
HyperX
Yeah.
approves it,
Right.
so
Right. No,
it
I mean,
has
like
to be
makes
very
a lot of
serious.
sense. and
Yes.
and it's very important too. I mean, like finding these kind of, esport organizations, athletes, maybe events as well that, align with what HyperX stands for. And I guess like that's a lot of your key job. And I'm kind of like a little bit, you talked briefly about obviously, how what sort of like these influencers and these teams should sort of like, you know have as their framework, and you sort of like, help develop that. But from like a process, I guess, of like how you're scanning and approaching, these influencers and the teams, how does that sort of process work, I guess, because I think everyone who's like, I mean, like, I think everyone at some point have been streaming a little bit, at least these days, you know, and everyone's like, how does it work? Does the influencers contact the brands? Does the brands, you know, reach out and then scan, like, you know, these influencers and the teams, and how does that essentially work?
Okay, well, nowadays we have a very strong like database that
Yeah,
I call like our own community.
yeah,
We are lucky to be such a good brand that people want to work with us. So
right,
that's good. I
yeah,
mean, it's hard. I will hardly track down somebody and say, "Hey, we're HyperX. Do you want to work with us?"
right,
Like
right.
I don't have the time and money to do that. You
Yeah,
know, usually we already have mapped who we are working with.
yep,
Uh, but it's a lot of process of scouting, studying, watching it.
yeah,
The first things we have to feel would be like about this person's integrity, content. Is this person trustful? How does his or her community reacts to his content or her content?
right,
This is the
right,
most important thing for us.
yep.
Uh, Defining the ones that are working with us throughout the year. I'm gonna give you an example. For example, do you know we work with Casemiro?
No, I don't actually. No,
Yes,
there you go.
Casemiro. Yeah, it's an awesome example because he's a true gamer.
Yep,
We've been working with him since 19, 19 uh, 2019. I have
right.
a problem with numbers in
Yeah,
English.
no worries.
2019.
We got it.
Um, because in our hero campaign and the way we say we're all gamers,
Yep,
we found people that are gamers but not just gamers.
right.
If we sponsor a CS:GO pro player, of course he's a gamer. There's
Yeah,
nothing to be explained there. But what about a football player that's also a gamer? Or
right,
a musician that's also a gamer? Or coming to reality, a plastic surgeon that is a gamer? There's a
right.
lot of stories. So in
Interesting.
our campaign, I also, with Caio, we manage our YouTube content and our social media content regarding not just famous creators or
Yeah,
streamers, but also everyday gamers,
right.
that have these stories inspirational stories to tell us. And we were speaking to Casemiro and his agents, etc., about him being a gamer. Back then, we still had to explain, okay, what is Casemiro doing in HyperX Squad? And we would say he's a gamer.
Right.
But back then, and this shows how much esports grow fast and how
Yeah.
much it grew last year because of the beginning of quarantine, pandemic,
Right.
people home, etc. He was a true gamer that he would say, Ali, I play 6 hours a day of CSGO.
No way.
Casemiro is like, what? You can go to our YouTube
No
channel.
way.
There's an interview with him.
You gotta we gotta share the link, I think, in the bio or
Yes,
in this video, because wow, I did not expect that.
is super interesting and he's very competitive. He's very serious.
Yeah, of course.
He's the
He's the
best,
elite athlete.
midfielder, lead athlete, and he doesn't like to lose at
Right.
anything, anything. When we were recording, I like football because I said,
Yeah.
I got, there he was playing with the ball and I was like, I wanna play, I wanna play with him. I need to at least throw him a ball, and I got the ball. I looked at him and he was like, if you try to pass, I'm gonna kick you, like I don't care if it's just for content. Like he doesn't wanna lose anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
It's
you can
awesome.
imagine him playing games. He
Right.
gets, is his essence,
Yeah.
compete. Um, so he's a very good CS:GO player. He has a lot of friends that play CS:GO in the professional field,
Yeah.
teams, esports teams, and a lot of Brazilian soccer players play as well.
Yeah.
Neymar, Paquetá, um, many. Douglas Costa,
Yeah.
many.
I guess
Gabriel
like it's
Jesus.
something that people can relate to, and it's just like easy, to be part of. And I guess like that sort of like fits HyperX's scope and brand, right? Of like showing that there's more to gamers than being like, I guess, a CS:GO pro or something like that, right? That there's more. Everyone can be involved in a sense.
Yeah. And they can play it, everybody's home, either
Yeah.
if it was a pandemic time or not. You can talk to your friend that's in another country and you can have fun with him playing
Right.
whatever you play with your friends. So at first we got him into the squad, but he was not playing. We still had some problems with, oh, CSGO, it's like a shooting
Right.
kind.
Yeah.
it, uh, the time goes and more people are more open to it and say, okay, it's okay, it's not a problem. And
Right.
now he's actually streaming, for example.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was so shy, so shy, that we were like always saying, why don't you stream, why don't you stream? And he did start
Yeah.
last year. And now, for example, if you're a fan because of his football, you
Yeah.
can go into his stream and you can actually talk to him.
Right.
So the streaming and the gaming gives this kind of experience that you would never get.
Right.
I
Like a
mean, as a football player.
closer community and a link, right? Like direct link
Yes.
to Casemiro.
And make
So,
questions. I remember I was like, one day I joined, I was throwing some jokes and I said, okay, what is harder? To play in Bernabeu, a finals, or to do a clutch in CSGO? And he was like, no, clutch for sure. Playing Bernabeu is super easy. The hard
because it's
thing
done
for
it so
me,
many times now. That's why.
yeah, he's like, that's easy. Champions League finals, no
No
problem.
worries. No.
My heart doesn't even race. But if I'm playing and I have to kill two, oh my God, it's super fun to hear those stories. It's like, oh my
That's
God.
awesome. Uh,
So it goes, that's why. So um, now there's a lot of people going this path,
yeah.
even opening their own esports teams, as Casemiro did,
Right.
Paquetá, Douglas Costa. They have their own esports teams, and
Right.
many others around
Yeah.
the world, Latam, Europe, etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so it's very important for us that people that are working with us have some similarities. I don't know if that's a word,
Yeah.
about how they work or what they believe,
Right.
because that's what we trust and that's why we believe and that's how we work.
Yeah.
So if we're not aligned, we're just being, you know, not strategic, and people will
Right.
not understand the message. We wanna talk through them too, right?
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And I guess that kind of like leads us a little bit into like sort of like, I guess, like the last question. And what sort of like tips do you have? And I mean, like we talked a little bit about like, how you're approaching athletes, what are some like, the elements for like, these kind of brands and entities and actors being part of the esport industry. But for those, I guess, like students and maybe, young influencers that are, tuning into today's episode and listening and thinking like, well, like like where do I begin? Like how do I start sort of like getting my foot in the door in the esport industry? What are some of the ways where I can do that? Maybe as a professional or maybe as an influencer, right? And what are some tips that you have for them?
Okay, so splitting in two, about being a streamer or creating content, the way I can, help. I'm no streamer at all, so I cannot be, say what I don't know. But we
Right.
do talk to a lot of our streamers, and we do create a lot of content to support the small streamers or the upcoming streamers. So I can share some tips,
Yeah,
um,
it'd be
that
great.
are always: trust yourself, trust your content. There is no need to follow somebody. I mean, you can always inspire yourself in somebody having a good setup, and I don't mean buying the most expensive products, but
Right.
like having a pretty space, having a good camera. People understand how much effort you put.
Yeah.
And what I really feel about the community too is, when somebody has a very good content, a very pretty view, etc., and not many followers, people are supporting, like, there's no way you have just these small followers. What you do is super good, you know? So
Mm.
this supports every day creating your community, and your community is going to be like your soldiers. You're gonna make them happy. And they are gonna make you happy, and your community should grow and grow because people
Yeah.
will see you are true.
Right.
You're not saying what they want to hear, or you're not trying to copy anybody. You're just being true to yourself.
Right. Just being
And if
yourself.
you're
Yeah.
just be yourself, if you're a good person, it should work, you know.
Yeah.
And as a brand, what I see is the amount of new roles coming to the market. So if you think about esports club,
Yeah.
you can think about, all aspects of the organization. So
Right.
working with communications, working with legal, working with finance,
Yeah.
working with the health of the players. So it
Right.
comes psychology, nutrition, mindfulness and yoga, and there's a lot of things, you know. Just
That's awesome.
think of it as a club.
Yeah.
uh, Agencies as well. So agencies of content, video editing,
Right.
um, media, advertising. I mean, if if a team, a esports team, was to have one person doing everything, they would, I don't know, they would have at least 50 or 60 people working in a club. So it's a
Right.
lot of people. You
Yeah.
don't have to start at the biggest one. I want to work in Team Liquid. Okay, that would be the same as me saying I want to work in Real Madrid,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. But I can work in my local group, my local team. I can work in the local agents. Or we
Get
see a lot
experience.
of people, yeah, get experience, getting to know people, because it works as a community.
Yeah.
Everybody has everybody in Twitter, or has everybody, you saw
Right.
them. Now you don't, but when there are events, you see each other. So it's
Yeah.
a lot about networking,
Yeah.
showing yourself, being true to who you are also in your
Right.
job, even if it's behind the camera, you know
Yeah.
you cannot be. I'm gonna give you an example of things that we do, like in HyperX, and I see
Go for
that
it.
the community sees, because they see that we are a very true, passionate, and people brand.
Right.
We have a lot of weird requests sometimes. So I have two examples.
All
One,
right.
a girl wrote in Twitter
Yep.
the following: guys, I had a wristband that I got in Brazil game show event like 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and I used to use it every day. My boyfriend had the same. When I entered to college, I had this. It was like her lucky thing,
Why?
having
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Lucky
bracelet.
charm.
Yes, and she lost it. So
Yeah.
she wrote it like, "Do you sell this?" And this was, when you go to an event, they give you stuff.
Yeah.
It was it was like a commercial. Well, no, that's not the name. It was like a gift,
You're right.
that we
Right.
we did it in events.
Yeah.
So it came to us, and we're like, we don't have it anymore. Like, it's over. So we started sending emails inside the company.
Yeah.
Does anybody have one of those that you don't wear? Can you give us? And somebody
Mm.
said, I have one. So we we sent a motorcycle. We got the thing.
Yeah.
I wrote her a letter like, "Oh, we were so touched about your story.
Yeah.
We understand there are things that have a lot of value." So we spoke to her,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
For sure.
we also put some keychains and a glass, some other things that she
Right.
could
Right.
use
Right. Of
too as
course.
lucky things. And we just
A good box.
sent it. A good box, no
Yeah.
products at all. Like, we didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just those things.
Just normal
And
stuff. Yeah.
she did post it, to thank us. And she was like, not many brands would do it that you did. And she doesn't even know how we were looking for the bracelet, because we were like 2 weeks trying to find the bracelet. Like, anybody has it.
No, that, but
And
she's also right though. In a sense of like like how many brands goes that far. You know,
yeah,
and then that says a lot about like HyperX as a brand, right, and what you stand for, and that also should reflect what kind of people that you interact with, that you have part of your portfolio, I guess, in a sense, as influencers and teams. And yeah, that's an amazing story.
It's for me, it's this is so important as doing like a marketing campaign. I mean, I'm not trying to turn it in a campaign,
Right.
but we have to be very true to our actions, because that's who we are, and that's how the brand is. As I said, John and David, that uh, they are not the owners of HyperX anymore, but they
Right.
were.
Yeah.
This is culture. So the company itself also, find people that look like the brand to work with, and
Yeah.
I have the role to look for people to work with me and the marketing that think
Right.
as that think the same as we
Yeah.
do. So not just by giving people stuff, etc. My job has a lot of this.
Yeah.
But for example, there was this girl that she wrote us like a big test like this, and she started, my boyfriend doesn't know I'm writing this, so don't tell him. I mean, it's okay if you cannot,
Right.
you cannot give us anything. So the boyfriend is a streamer
Yeah.
that we actually knew because he plays a lot with one of our streamers,
Oh, okay.
and his microphone broke, and she was telling this whole story, and very, he deserves it, he's so good, and now he has the shot, trying to get him money to buy this and that, etc. She was
Right.
just asking for us. She didn't ask us like, "Can you give me a microphone?" Or she just shared the story.
Yeah.
So we said, "Okay, let's do it." I spoke to Yoda, that is the streamer that plays with him. I said, "What do you want to do? Do you want to do this together, etc." And we did send him a box, and he got it when he was streaming, and he had no idea. Like he was like, what? How do they have my address? He had no idea. Like, why am I getting this stuff? And the
Right.
and the girlfriend was in the chat, and she was like, I can't believe they read me and they did it. Like, because
Yeah.
what I think is people don't. I don't know how people see brands, because I'm also a consumer, so it's
Right.
hard to see a big brand and see people behind the brand. You just
Yeah.
see the brand,
Right.
but they should, and everybody should see people as the brand, and like we put time to it, we put effort in it, we put anything that we can do to change lives and make the community safer, healthier, happier, etc. We're gonna do it if it is
Right.
in our hands. We have a
Yeah.
lot of limitations, of course,
Yeah. Of
but
course.
we changed some lives. The girl was super happy. The girl was happier than the boyfriend that got the products. She was like, "Oh my God,
No, that's
I'm
great.
super happy." His
Right.
community was happy. Everybody was thankful, and we just had to do s- so less. That's not the
So
word. I
little.
mean,
Yeah. So
so
little.
little,
Yeah.
and make this huge impact.
Yeah.
And I have to also be smart not to look like, Ale is trying to get stuff out of streamers, without paying. It's different. It's different
Yeah.
what we do under a contract,
Sure. Yeah.
posting, campaign, etc. And what we can do to, help the community
Right.
leverage some opportunities, etc.
And it's also like, at the end of the day, like there's two things I want to sort of like wrap up with, and I'll let you have like some closing remarks too. But from like sort of like what you've been telling too, and I think like this really aligns with like how the young professionals in the industry is coming up with too, is that it comes down to your values, right? Like of like finding that sort of mindset, that values that align with that sort of brand or that sort of company that you want to work with. And it just showcased like how important it is, for brands like HyperX and others too. It's like you look at these things, your, of course your skills is important and maybe your education too, but at the end of the day it comes down to like, do you align with what HyperX stands for, what we stand for, and like how we want to, you know uh, I guess like, promote the brand and showcase the brand. Because at the end of the day too, like, the little things matters, and doing those sort of like, actions, I guess, or things, it's just, it just showcase also like, okay, like we are a brand that care, we care about our community, and at the end of the day we're true to our slogan and our vision, which is to that everyone is gamers, right? And that is a very important organizational lesson, in a sense of like, be true to who you are, right? And you said that to like the influencers, to like, you know, the people that you're working with as well, is you got to be true to yourself and finding those. So I don't know if you have any final remarks on that, but
No,
yeah.
I think adding to what you said, and maybe the examples I give, or even my experience of, traveling 2 times to Europe and saying, I'm gonna do it until they say no. I
Right.
think that comes to anything. I mean, there are people that write us with this, like, they will never hear me, and we do hear. So if you have a skill that you think somebody or a company or a team or a streamer, anybody needs that skill, just be also humble too. Don't say like, hey, your video sucks, I can edit them better for you. Like, don't do that, because I don't think
Of
anybody
course.
wants to hear these kind of messages.
Of
But
course.
actually trying to, map what do you want to work. I want to be a streamer. Okay, next steps. I want to work with community manager. Okay, community management. Okay, who are the ones that inspire me? Nobody. Okay, so start your study. Okay, this guy's good, this guy's good. Write them. Try to talk to them. I think
Right.
the esports community is very open.
Yeah.
We are always trying to get new people and good people
That's
to
awesome.
work in the different fields. Everybody always, uh, I need somebody like this. I have one. Do you know these people?
Right.
We can always help, and it goes a lot with what you do. That's creating the network and creating the social space where people can interact.
Yeah.
And that would be the goal for me, trying to figure out in yourself, like, okay, I want to work with sports. I don't know anything about the game. You don't have to understand all the games. I
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
I see
Yeah.
Rainbow Six, and I see the guns like this, and I was like, what? This is weird. And then you see CS:GO. You can never know everything. I mean, you can if you're 20 and you don't have a job and everything.
Yeah.
Maybe you have that time, so
Right.
use that time. When I
Yeah.
was young, when I was 20, I was studying all the languages I could, because I knew that would help me in the future.
So,
So studying languages, studying the community, studying the teams, studying everything that you can do, and just
yeah.
like mapping as you go to university. You're doing
Right.
communications, you can work in the agents, you can work in the here,
Right.
etc. So esports is pretty much the same: mapping, understanding what you like,
Yep.
understanding yourself, being true to everything you mapped, and go.
I think is a perfect way just to wrap up this podcast with it. There's a lot of opportunities in the esport industry, and Alessandra, I would like to thank you so much, for taking the time to sharing your story, your insights, and all the fun little extra stories we got out of it too, about like some of the community members, and I appreciate your kind words as well. I think, for us it's about sort of like, helping people find organization with similar values, right? So again, that was sort of like help you as well with like finding the right kind of people that can do the best job based on, what HyperX is standing for, or other brands, or so it's part of that process, right? It's like that new thinking of like evolving, the industry. So thank you once again for taking the time, and I gotta like finish up with some Norwegian though, so you gotta learn some Norwegian now. So
Thank
with
you very much for having me.
every video we do, we always finish with "Vi snakkes," so which means see you later in Norwegian. So now you know that.
How do I say this?
Vi snakkes.
This not again.
Vi snakkes.
This not kiss.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Nice.
All right. Thank you, Alessandra. It was a pleasure having you on our podcast, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye bye.